That's just the way it is. Let's take a look. Market's about to open here. Captain Condor is back. Yes, as kind of what we were just talking about. And we're going to have a little fun today. We're going to be doing a lot of streaming today. A lot of streaming. Check. Y'all hear me? Check. Check. All right, now we're back. Now we're back. Whew. I was getting a little sketchy there for a second. All right, anyway, red open out of the gate here, 69.40 down to 69.37 on NASDAQ. Or I'm sorry, ES. NASDAQ is heading higher. Yesterday we saw a very large discrepancy in the morning time. NASDAQ was blasting while ES is rocketing, and then they kind of did this little flipperoo until they both finally made the move. So it was a very difficult to trade ES and NASDAQ yesterday morning until they finally correlated back up. Gold's been putting on some beautiful 3C bounces. They put on one last night. Fantastic textbook 3C bounce right at 9:30 in the evening. And then this morning they put on one here right before the open. So gold continues to be a very clean 3C setup. So what's up, YouTube? How's it going, buddy? How's it going, her buddies? Overall today, I'm going to stick to my guns. 9:45 is when I'm going to begin trading. I do think we are going to have a move in FOMC that could pay short-dated straddles or strangles if you were to get them in early enough. If you wait until the day event, obviously it's going to be very difficult. But if you get them in early enough, I think a strangle or a straddle will actually pay this afternoon. So we have 388 million in puts sold, 270 million calls sold. So this is a option seller 0 DTE morning. If you're looking at Bookmap right here, we have liquidity up to 69.50, 69.35 lower. There's not really any major outlier levels on the S&P. NASDAQ has a big dog level at 26.8, 287, and then after that 187. Crazy stuff. VIX is once again green. They closed very green yesterday, and now we're up to 16.53. And ES has recovered. 99.9% chance that JPOW cuts rates this afternoon. So anything other than a 25 basis points cuts will result in aggressive movement, aggressive volatility. Right after FOMC, of course, we have mega cap earnings. Didn't commit a single trade yesterday? Awesome, John. That's fantastic. That is fantastic, homie. I took one single trade yesterday, and then I hung it up. Something really weird happened to me yesterday. We went to Aldi's to grab our meat. We get all our meat from either local farms or Aldi's. There wasn't a single ounce of meat in the whole store. No chicken, no beef, no fish, no pork. I'm not even exaggerating. First time that's ever happened. It was very odd. Maybe they were just restocking. Maybe they were just in between trucks. I don't know. But it was weird. It was weird. Big red candle here, 69.41 after NASDAQ just filled this topside liquidity. Oh. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. If anyone recalls last time mega cap earnings and FOMC was on the same day, the big red during the day and the shorts immediately torn to shreds at 4:02, blasting on tech earnings. Yeah, buddy. I remember that day. I remember that day. What's up, Anthony? Good morning. Good morning. If you noticed, SpotGam is a new tool that tracks the 0 DTE positioning of pretty much anything you want. But they were looking at the Qs and the SPY this morning, and they noticed not only has things shaken out a little bit and become a little bit more unstable, but they showed the tracking where the flow of the option chain for the past 10 days, historical data, and it has been trending day after day for the past 10 days towards more bearish positioning, which led to today. Now, yes, if we weren't dealing with FOMC and so many other mega earnings, then that would probably look like a clear indication that we're ready for a retracement. But because of everything that's going on today, it's simply a measure of instability, not necessarily a measure of downside, because obviously there's going to be positioning to take advantage of any kind of downside via hedges and protection. And what else? SpotGamma looks like this, starting to piss me off. Looks like you have a lot open. I don't know. NASDAQ all the way back over here. That is a 20-point roll. So far, a very tight range. I cannot recommend taking a trade this early. I would not be surprised in the before the end of Friday. I would not be surprised to see 1,000-point difference between right now's price and the close of business on Friday, whether it be up or down. I would not be surprised to see 1,000-point difference. The way I'm seeing here things contract and the way the setup, this looks on the price action, it's odd to say the least. And my lizard brain is kind of pinging here, and I don't really know what to make of it. And kind of what SpotGam is saying is that the market is inherently unstable right now. I mean, heck, we're already up, what, 1,400 points from last Wednesday, so it's not really that big of a move. But I know you don't really follow a lot of other stuff, but the short video I posted is one I think you'll appreciate. Okay, I'll take a look. My thought is big upside because we have Trump, and yeah, Trump's going to play nice. Well, of course, what did China do this morning? They bought a crap ton of soybeans and good faith effort in conversation. So they're coming to the table, at least as it seems, in good faith. We'll see. I'm sure the American farmer will appreciate the purchase. 26,268, 264, dropping. New low of the day for NASDAQ. ES is still upwards. Looks like they may have a little retracement. The S&P as a whole is a bit more bullish than yesterday. Yesterday, we were heavily red throughout the entire market with exception of a couple of names in tech. XLK right now, we're about 50-50 green and red. So it's a little bit more positive. NVIDIA is nearing in, touching 5 trillion market cap for the first time in history. I thought about 210 was the target to about do it. I don't think they've actually touched it yet. So we're coming close if they haven't already. But yeah, 210 on NASDAQ, on NVIDIA. They're up another 5% this morning. $26,255 gold here has a very large red candle here with a bottom wick that has volume. You need a higher high, of course. You know how gold can get out of control. $26,266. 40.20 gold. I'm going to keep a close eye on gold this morning. We're about 6 minutes away from my trading time zone. Market internals are at least neutral on S&P yesterday. It was very red at this time. Yeah, I'm seeing about the same thing right here. I'm seeing about the same thing. Gold's still pretty heavy here. They do have a tremendous amount of volume, but they need a bottom wick and you need a higher high on whatever time frame you choose to select. We saw last week what can happen if you don't wait for the third C. There's a nice, beautiful bottom wick beginning to form on gold. You need a higher high. This was the play I took yesterday, almost the exact same setup. It was a little bit later in the day than now, but it's pretty much the exact same play. High volume bottom wick, beautiful textbook 3C long indication, red at the open, green recovery, textbook. So if we get the third C here, maybe we'll get the same exact play since last week. Or yesterday, I'm sorry. Volume analysis, there you go. My apologies. PTO until November 10th, LFG. Nice D, Trent. Love it, buddy. Congratulations. I've been trading gold every day for a while now. The volume spikes do not act the same as the indexes. You absolutely need to wait for it. Yep, I 100% agree with that. So it's less trappy than NASDAQ, but you absolutely have to wait for the third C. Completely agree with that. I approve that message. What's up, Pedro? How you doing? Bienvenidos. Today will mark the 5th time in history that the Fed has cut rates while the S&P sits at all-time highs. Interesting. Every other candle feels like a volume spike. Well, you know, my volume analysis is relative. It's all relative to the environment. And even then, it's still not going to pinpoint exactly unless you get the corresponding price action. Right here. 26,287, 26,300. We have this liquidity up on NASDAQ. Gold continues to try to bottom wick, so keep a close eye there on the old GC. $145 million in puts sold, 54 million in calls sold. So it's a option seller's day so far for the zeros so far. Things are starting to roll back over. Let's see. VIX is heading higher, almost 1670 and still climbing. ES is going up 69.45 for new high of the day, where NASDAQ sits in the middle of the range. Gold is still bottom wicking. You need, I would say, at least 4021.5 to get you the 3C long. That's the thesis, at least. The thesis. We'll see what they can do here with this bottom wick. If they can close it, we'll probably get a nice visceral bullish action, but you need the close. You need the close. Otherwise, we know how gold can be. It'll smoke everybody. Let's see what they could do here. NASDAQ is 26,266 and climbing. Gold's finally starting to take off a little bit. Just a wee bit. There you go. NASDAQ is still hanging out in the middle. So no trades on NASDAQ, not even considering a trade on NASDAQ here. Kind of like yesterday, just terrible stuff. ES is going higher, so yeah. NVIDIA is obviously driving this market at the moment. Ridiculously green day on NVIDIA, 4.76% day. I've definitely wrecked a few props playing with gold. Yeah, I mean you can make yourself or break yourself with gold, but you've got to, I mean, just like everything else, you have to be very delicate. You have to respect it with position sizing, with fundamentals, with the 3 C's. I don't see any news on NVIDIA. Did I miss something? I think just the investment they announced yesterday, not to mention NVIDIA's speech with Trump. But no, it's just, you know, right now NVIDIA is the golden child. Silver isn't better. I don't play silver that much. I've had one trade on silver, and it was one of the biggest, at the time, it was the biggest prop firm trade I ever put on. And it's kind of one of those things that I was going to cash out of silver and call it a day. NVIDIA is going. NASDAQ is starting to creep along here. ES is blasting to new highs. Alongside the VIX is blasting to new highs. We are now 9:45, which is my open trading time frame. Do I trade full time? It depends what you mean by trade full time. Could I fully support myself trading? Probably. Do I want to? And do I? No. I have multiple sources of income. Nor would I ever want. I've never want to try to do this for sport myself full time. Trading is stressful enough as it is. I'm a big believer in diversified income. $26,287 is the big dog liquidity on NASDAQ. We still are smack dab in the range. Not a single actionable trade yet on NASDAQ. Gold is trying to put on a 3C move. Can't close it. Can't close it. Trying to, though. Gold is like, I don't know. Gold, if you're patient, will reward you, and it'll punish the crap out of you if you're impatient. Big on diversification, definitely. I feel the same way. What's 3C talk again? The 3C is an acronym I came up with to quickly describe my system, which is 3C stand for 3 criteria, which is volume, first criteria, supportive wick, or whichever. If you want a short, you need a top wick. If you need a long, you need a bottom wick, which is the second C. The third C is price action. So confirmation of price action, which means you need a higher high for a bounce. You need a lower low for a short, which just tells you that you're going to try to catch the right side of the V. Anytime you're looking to take a bounce or rejection, you want to play the right side of the V. If you're looking for a continuation trade, like a breakout or a breakdown, then of course the lack of the 3C will give you the confirmation to do so. So serious question. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about a huge pullback or recession sometimes next year. What would you do? Just move into cash or major deflationary environment? Well, I've already gone in. My retirement accounts are already in protection mode. I've already made the decision. I'm uncomfortable with the current market conditions, so I've already put my long-term retirement assets into a cash/bond asset. So that's already done. In terms of my trading, I haven't touched my long-term portfolio yet. It's still invested. So I've got my stock portfolio and I've got my retirement accounts. My retirement accounts are already protected. My stock portfolio is not. I haven't touched it. So I do need to make a decision pretty quickly whether or not I need to, one, completely transition into a protection zone, which is a more difficult task to do in the retirement because there's tax ramification to consider, which is a big decision given my amount of positioning. Number two, what I could do is just simply hedge, which I think is a more reasonable aspect to at least start out doing, is just put on either some sort of collar, some sort of spread, or some sort of just negative delta position like a put to maintain in perpetuity. Not to say that, oh, I'm a perma bear, I'm going to hold puts all my life, but just protection mode is a smart thing to do given the, one, cost of puts, which are very cheap, and number two, the uncertainty of this market. Let me tell you something. I don't care. I mean, we can go back and forth with the nonsense of, oh, you're a perma bear, you're a perma bull, nonsense, LFG, whatever. But the market doesn't. When you start to see historical firsts over and over and again, there's something afoot. Treachery is afoot. When I see that the market broke a record for the weakest market in history to gap up 1% like yesterday, that's a big red flag for me. Something is going on, in addition to 1,000 other variables. So I think it's just smart to put on some protection for long-term thinking. I mean, we are at historical highs that we've been rocketing for 5 years. At what point do we need to consider maybe the possibility of protection? The market's not going to do this forever. It's just not. I don't care who you are. It's not going to do this forever. So it is smart to consider protection. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. How long have I been trading for? 14 years. This is my 14th year. 14th year trading. Oh, man. All right, gold is finally trying to confirm here. NASDAQ is absolutely disgusting. The reason I'm asking is because most of them are saying it's likely going to pop more into highs at the end of the year. Yeah, I do think that we're going to face some highs here too. But I'm willing to risk the potential of losing out on a little more upside to protect myself against the possibility of a limit open that we're going to get one day and then the resulting sell. And to think about this, I was thinking about this the other day. The silliness that we've been experiencing, this bullishness, didn't start after coronavirus. It actually started in 2019. If you go back and look at the daily chart, we had a bear market in 2018. Not a technical bear market because we didn't actually hit a 20% sell-off, but in 2018, if you don't realize this, 2018 the market dropped like 19%. Like it was not a good market in 2018. In 2019, the market bounced and the trend line began to go a little bit vertical. In 2019, before coronavirus, if you go plot the historical trend lines, they were pretty much flat up until 2019. And that's when it bounced and started going crazy. And then we had the coronavirus sell-off, which obviously led to the ridiculousness that we see here today. So in my opinion, which further makes me realize that 2019 or COVID was completely fabricated, was that they began their liquidity nonsense in 2019 before coronavirus, and then they continued it after the coronavirus nonsense. And here we are today. So all I'm saying here is that we're going on 5+ years of a massive liquidity squeeze, and at some point, chickens are going to come home to roost, and I'm going to protect myself. That's it. If you have money and you see this silliness and do nothing to protect it, I know I've got to lose myself. Yeah, so another guy I follow said that the last time he's seen this kind of euphoria was in 1998 dot-com bubble when he was on Wall Street. And he says the problem is that everyone thought this was going to continue to do this forever. And then what happened? The people that never took profits or protected themselves at the top of 1998, they absolutely got wrecked. And you had people jumping off of buildings because they didn't protect themselves. They didn't think that the market could drop. And what happened over the next year is that it gave back every single thing it had. And it did not even come close to breaking even for 13 years. It took over a decade for the market to break even. Think about that next time that you want to chase highs. Anyway, I was going to say you sound incredibly knowledgeable. Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. I pride myself in trying to learn as much as I can. Sometimes I miss the mark. All right. NASDAQ is climbing 26,300. ES is 6950. Both are starting to finally correlate to the upside, while market internals don't look all that great. We have a 70% red market on the S&P still. We have gold cannot get us a third C confirmation yet, although multiple bottom wicks. And NASDAQ and ES are both putting in new highs. So there you go. In this silliness as an evolving trader, what do you think the urge to trade is coming from and how to control it? Where do you think the urge to trade is coming from? Money, greed. We are inherently evil as humans anyway, and trading plays into the deepest, darkest desire for greed and want more. That whole thing about humans that we want more, we want what we can't have, greed, I need more. Trading plays into that. And it'll exploit your emotions to a T. If you don't have an edge in system in trading, the market has an uncanny ability to pivot everything you do most of the time, to the point where an average trader who doesn't have an edge can literally have a dartboard that says short or long on it, throw a dart randomly, and have a better win rate following that than it would be an actual system. The market just has ability to pivot you perfectly over and over and over again if you don't have a system. And if you play into that little urge, if you need more, then you're just going to get wrecked. NASDAQ is still here at 26,300. They're dealing with this pivot here at 742. We have liquidity shifting into 26,312 on NASDAQ, while VIX skyrockets. VIX is exponential now to 1682. So with a 70% negative S&P right now, currently, with a 1682 VIX and climbing, with the VIX now currently being up, where's it at? Where'd my VIX go? 2.5%. A little weird. So I don't think we're going to continue to trend upwards up until FOMC. I think they'll do this stuff and then they'll kind of give it a little bit of a pop-a-roni. But we'll see. We do have data scheduled for the top of the hour. They have now scheduled and then wiped new home sales 3 times this week, or 2 times. This will be the 3rd. So I don't know if they'll actually post it. I doubt it. Government's still closed. And they're saying that this government closure could actually go on for a historically extended amount of time, simply because there's nothing else left to barter between Republicans and Democrats. What are they going to do? Talk about the debt ceiling? It's already at almost $40 trillion. Who cares? There's no more consequences for spiraling out of control debt ceiling. So what do they have to negotiate on? So this one could last a while. I bet $3 to win 100 if the Fed pauses today. Well, that $100 win is going to cost you a whole bunch of money if they do pause today. I haven't noticed any changes with the government being closed. Do we even need them? You must be new here. I'll take my winners right away and hang on to my losers. Nice. Do you think the possible rate cut today has already been baked in? Well, the market is always going to price in. The market's always going to price in the known data. And I know that term priced in gets used a lot in the retail trading community. And I think it's overused or misused. But the market is going to price in known events. That's just what the market does. And that's through the process of liquidity discovery and hedging. So anytime there's a known predicted event, the market is going to price itself accordingly. And then if something does it out of the ordinary or unknown, then the market is going to do its best to catch up and price that in, which results in volatility. Through options, yeah. Anyway, big green candle here. They just wiped that liquidity at 26,315. That's why I look at news events as strictly liquidity events, not necessarily bullishness or bearishness given the data posting, because it's all about liquidity. It has nothing to do with bull or bear. So given the possible crash, which would likely include real estate, do you have any thoughts on a large cash pile to sweep up a lot of real estate? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's after the dust settles. 100%. That's what I want to do. I mean, I was salivate and kind of daydream about what I would do if I was in a good cash position in 2009, 2010. You know, I'd be scooping and scoring left and right, which is what a lot of people did. But in order to do that, you have to be very cash rich. You have to be very easy on. You have to have a very low amount of consumer debt or other liabilities that are not locked up in 8, 9, 10% interest rates. And you've got to be able to weather the storm through maybe your employment situation. But that's a deeper conversation. All right, so they just smoked 26,315 and they rolled up liquidity to 325. Pretty much the same exact activity they did yesterday. Same exact activity. VIX is still rocketing, 1686. Gold finally cleared us a 3C long. Now it's starting to retest the SR flip. If you're wondering what your SR flip is, right here. Prior supports, new resistances finally break, and now they're retesting it. If they hold this area, you'll have a chance of capturing 40.32. If they smoke it, then you could play a short back down to 40.16. Or I would get out of long positions. Land, yeah. I hope they raise rates. I don't like them setting in policy when they're okay with 50% increase in inflation target from 2 to 3% we have gone over this year. Yeah. I think they are in an impossible position, Benny Shee. I think they are in an impossible position. I think they've lost control, which is what they've always done. 1998, 2007, they've lost control every time, and they've waited too long to cut. And they every single time results in an emergency 100 basis points cut at the very bottom of the market right before they bounce. So I think they're in an impossible position. I don't think Jay Powell can make a good decision, one way or another, because there's a bunch of nonsense all over the place. The market is certainly not as strong. Well, the economy is certainly not as strong as the data is alluding to. Yesterday, the missus went to Publix, and she took a picture of 2 ribeye steaks, 2 normal-sized ribeye steaks, and she sent me she brought the picture to me, and she covered up the price with her thumb. She says, guess how much these 2 ribeye steaks at Publix was. And granted, it's Publix. I know, it's high, whatever. And I was like, and I'm trying to think, all right, well, reasonable price, let's add 40%. I was thinking, all right, well, $35. She said, nope, not even close. $52 for 2 ribeye steaks at Publix. Plain Jane ribeye steaks. And I was like, that's insane. It's absolutely extraordinary. The Fed needs to buy gold with some of that money they're printing. They need to do something. If you had to start over completely, what would things you learn again give you an edge in the markets? I would go 1, position sizing. That was my first light bulb, and 2, VPA. I would forget about indicators, EMAs, nonsense, VWAP, everything. I'd delete it all, and I would simply volume. I'd look for volume. Then position, well, first with position sizing, then VPA. After that, I would start buying stocks earlier, and I would never stop. It took me too long to start buying stocks. If you're listening to my voice now, the number one thing you need to take away from it is start buying stocks and never stop. Depending on your age. Right now, it might be a little elevated if you're a little older, but so 26,320 here, NASDAQ. Gold is bounced right off that level. You see that SR flip? And they rocketed. So they broke above that liquidity zone of the higher high, came back down, retested, and then bounced right up. So there you go. Oh, you're 18? Oh, yeah. Oh, you're asking the right questions at 18, homie. You're asking the right questions at 18. NASDAQ is still blasting. Let's see what happens here at 26,325. Stocks and real estate. You have the world by the cojones. You just don't realize it yet. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. There's a common saying, unique name. There's a common saying among old people that the youth is wasted on the young. Meaning that when you're young, you have no idea what asset you have, which is time. And you piss it away on chasing women, chasing cars, chasing stupid stuff. So don't be one of those people that waste their youth because you're young. You can YOLO and live your life now and be miserable when you're 40, or you could be miserable now grinding and then live your life like a kid when you're 40. I prefer the latter. I prefer living my life now. What's your thoughts on options and order flows for future trading? I love it. I follow options flow aggressively, and order flow for that matter. All right. What do we got here on the old NASDAQ? What do we got? What can they do? Nice little top wicks here. Beautiful. Gold is finally breaking out, baby. Finally breaking out. Nice little top wick on NASDAQ. Deferred consumption is the secret to wealth. I love it. If I could go back to 18 with the knowledge I have now, oh boy, yeah, definitely. Put SPY in a Roth and set it and forget it. Yeah, buddy. All right, so we have a nice little top wick here. We don't have a lot of 3C volume for NASDAQ, but there's a nice top wick. A couple of tweezers there. And then gold confirmed our 3C long, same exact trade as yesterday. 4033, bounced off the SR flip, and now here we are going up. And you play the long side bias on gold until they give you a 3C top wick. It's beautiful. We wasted 2 years dating a girl, and now I'm very careful. Yep. Out of everything, every financial analysis you can get, the woman you choose to be with is the most important financial decision you'll ever make in your entire life. It'll make or break you. You could find a woman that'll help you build a business, build an empire. You can find a woman that'll divorce you and take half of everything you own and then some, while banging the pool boy in your bed while you're at work. You could find a woman who will have a baby with you and divorce you and then charge you $2,700 a month in alimony. Or you can have a woman that can help you, like I said, build an empire. The first one is the most preferred. And take your kids and only let you see them once a month. Yeah, absolutely, man. Don't do it. 18 years of misery is not worth 15 seconds of pleasure. Just remember that. Just remember that. Getting all sorts of knowledge here today on the OM podcast. 15 seconds, huh? Hey. Oh my gosh. Bet 15 seconds of her life. 1692 on the VIX. Very green move on the VIX. BTO started on point. ES is 69.45. Still dropping. NASDAQ doing the same thing. Gold right now is the best play. Look at that. Absolutely extraordinary. $40.34.4 and climbing. No high volume 3C top wick, so you remain long biased on gold. It's easy as that. Caught that 3C. Nice JDM. I love it. CVD's rocketing on gold. Yeah, buddy. You see how patient we had to be for gold? That we weren't going to sit there and try to catch a falling knife. You wait for the higher high, and then off we go. That's all you need to do. Does it work every time? No. Does it work most of the time? Yes, it does. And that's all you need. VIX is rocketing. I'm keeping a close eye on the VIX. I'm lobster eyeing the VIX here. You can't see it, but I've got the VIX up in a separate window interfaced over Bookmap. I'm struggling a bit with managing the TP on gold with this move. Any tips? Right now, you have two options if you're in a trade, JDog or JDM. One, you could set a target profit, which you've already discussed, which I would be. How do you do that? Well, I would just, there's no real way to do that except looking for prior pivots and see if it can attack a prior zone of liquidity, which the obvious target is going to be 40.45, which is the pivot from about 7 o'clock this morning. Your secondary move is to do what I prefer, which is more of a structured trailing stop. You're going to set your trailing stop based on liquidity zones, and you're going to see how much of this pie you can eat. And it's really a pro-con weight on whether or not is what your confidence is on how far you think this move is going to go. If you think this thing is going to continue to blast all day, then set an aggressive target profit, set your stop where you're comfortable, and take your hands off and shut your computer down and see what happens. See if you can come back to which one of those got tripped. But either way, you're in a fantastic position. You have guaranteed profits, assuming that you've got a stop locked up in the profit zone here. So that's what I would recommend. Put yourself on a stop that you'd be comfortable taking profits on. Set yourself a limit order, a target profit, and then close your broker. NASDAQ just got rolled, homie. Rolled like some oats. When they take the dog is where they cross the line. Yeah. Yeah. Look at the 30-minute chart on the VIX. Yeah, it's going. It's positioning for this volatility. Big move. Did not realize the extent of which IWM is now dominated by pure tech momentum garbage. Did I get in the Tradeify competition? I did not. What is that? I saw something about that a couple of weeks ago when Trader J posted, but I never followed up with it. Give it another 30 minutes, everything that says roll over again, and it's not. Luckily, I still have a lot of wood to chop. There you go. I still got to chop all my wood. I've got it felled. That's what gave me the poison ivy 2 weeks ago, so I got to get back out there. I was letting the poison ivy vines dry up a little bit before I get in there. Do I use the quarterly theory? What do you mean? 20 minutes, I do have to switch over to Bookmap stream. Do it, $35? Yeah. $200,000 to the winner. I'll take a look. I'll take a look. I took a look at Tradeify, man. you know, they're I don't like their 20% consistency rule. Please post bookmap stream. I will. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think my problem was more to where to find these key pivot areas. I tend to look at 40-20 instead of 41-30. 40-20. Are you sure you're looking at the downside stuff instead of 41-30? I see. Well, that's the fear aspect of giving back your profits, which is going to happen. But, a trend rarely goes one direction extended for very long without some sort of opposite pivot before they bounce and continue to go higher. So if you're going to face a trend, if you want to catch the big trend, the one that we all daydream about, I mean, you have to survive like a little bit of downturn like this right here, and that's where you need to make a decision. Is this a complete reversal to give back all the profit, or is this just a little retracement to bounce and go higher? You don't know that. Nobody knows that. The only thing you could do is set your risk parameters, take your hands off, and see what happens. Nvidia surpasses 5 trillion. Did they do it? Did they do it? 211, they probably did it. You mentioned Trader Day, and I thought he used quarterly theory. Trader J, he's a member in the Discord server, in my Discord server. Nvidia is dropping back over. Nasdaq is starting to drop back over. It ain't over till it's over. No volume spikes on Nasdaq at all. I don't like it. I'm not touching Nasdaq today until I see a good 3C, if at all. It hit 212.19 for a nanosecond. 5 trillion. $5 trillion. That's what that company's worth. That's insane. It's worth more than like most countries combined. It's insane. It's absurd. Yep, so that's a high volume bottom wick on Nasdaq right here. On the 1 minute, if you look on the 5, we have a couple of bottom wicks nicely, of course. We're still 2 minutes away from closure of candle, and we're attacking the higher high right now. They have a tremendous amount of liquidity up at 26,300 for Nasdaq. If you're looking at gold, they are starting to drop back over here. And that is your decision whether or not you want to execute the sell order on your long position. Nasdaq is going to try to go for that liquidity. What do you use to gather options data and get GEX calls? Well, I use a service called Spot Gamma. If you're looking in the bottom left of the YouTube stream, you'll see that the lines going up and down, the green and purple blue line, that's Spot Gamma. That tells me the options flow. Now what you're seeing there is only 0 DTE flow. I track everything from the long dated all the way down to the zeros, including GEX levels and just overall gamma positioning of the market. I know a guy who accidentally tossed poison ivy on a burn pile once. He had a full body rash. Yeah, I've done that before. I had a constricted air pipe, windpipe, which wasn't fun because of that. It's the craziest sports factoid ever. After TB won the Super Bowl with Tampa, there was a better chance he could make the Super Bowl than Steph Curry would make a 3. Holy crap. It's crazy. Maybe Magabaguli can bet on that. VIX is flying, man. It's flying. Look at that. rocket ships, baby. Rocket ships. NASDAQ is still kind of doing its thing. Serious question. Do you find the GEX even matters? I used to think that it did, but the last 6 months I've changed my mind. It's largely irrelevant. I don't track the GEX spot levels anymore simply because it was hit or miss. I track the overall positioning of the market, which gives me a better test of where to look for direction. But in terms of like seeing the GEX levels, it's hit or miss. And it was if I find a metric or a data point that is not at least significantly more than 50-50, then I have to disregard it. Can you please stream during the FOMC decision? Yes, I will be streaming. So I'll come on about 1:45 in the afternoon, and I'll post the stream, and we'll kind of just get settled in, tell some dad jokes, get all ready, and then we'll do the 2 o'clock posting, and then we'll go into 2:30, and then we'll see if we could stay on into mega cap earnings. So I don't know. I can't promise that, but I still have a family to take care of. Once the kids get home from school, they look in my office door window like I'm in a zoo attraction. Do I market order or limit order into positions? I use limit orders, never market orders. Never ever market orders. Did I hear about the new restaurant on the moon? I did not. I did not. I initially subscribed for options plays, but I stayed for the dad jokes. I love it, Chris. I love it. Please have the same YouTube view on the charts, market flow. Anything else you'd like? You want me to sing? Dance? Could I offer you an hors d'oeuvre, sir? Foot rub? Please do pilot speak. Yeah. I'll do everything. I'll describe all price action as if they were altitudes. Four gap ups in a row on NDX. Interesting. I love your sense of humor. We're enjoying your insight on stocks. I appreciate it. Thank you. You have to have a good good sense of humor with everything. This is my first time trading a prop firm. Does anyone know the exact time I cannot trade FOMC? 2 p.m. You can trade 2:30. 2:30 is not a scheduled event. 2 o'clock is. So you can't trade 1 minute before, during, or 1 minute after 2 p.m. Do you think flying a plane or helicopter is harder? I don't know. I've never flown a helicopter. I would never fly a helicopter. I like living. I choose life. If I'm at 5,000 feet in a single-engine Cessna and my engine goes out, I'm perfectly fine. Cool as a cucumber. I'm going to put that baby down like Sully. If I'm at 5,000 feet and my blade stopped rotating on the helicopter, the only thing I have to my disposal is auto-rotation, which is like a 50-50 chance of you actually surviving. I'm going to go with the plane. Royale with cheese. Where is TLT at? Let me put it this way. I've listened to a safety briefing video of an 82-year-old woman flying a King Air double-engine prop plane. Well, her husband died in the left seat. Her husband was the pilot. She was 82 years old. She was not a pilot. She was in the right seat. Pilot was in the left seat. The pilot dies. She managed to fly the plane and land it perfectly safe. You can't do that with a helicopter. You put an 82-year-old woman who's never touched a helicopter in the helicopter seat, she's crashing and dying. 100%. You do it with a helicopter or you do it with a plane, she can land it. So I guess take that for what it is. All right. ES and NASDAQ are still just kind of trending a little bit lower here. We have liquidity pull up 26,325, 26,300. VIX is still hanging out right at 17. Gold is still chilling up here at 40.31. I'm also on my first day of my prop firm. I finally committed to it. Nice, Jonathan. Just treat it with respect, but don't let it ruin your life. Do I have any videos on how I use Spot Gamma? I don't, but there's some in the works. Where else do I stream? I stream here on YouTube, and I stream in my Discord. And I also stream on Discord when I'm not streaming on YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Most military people you talk to have been in a helicopter say they will start telling you stories of chopper crashes they've been in. Yep. Pretty much everyone's been in one. If you're looking at the 0DT flow, which is the chart on the bottom left side of the YouTube stream, is that we're beginning to see aggressive put buying. We are now at 737 million of puts, 345 million of calls. They're positioning itself drastically into 0DT calls at the moment. A helicopter does not want to be in the air. We just make it. A plane does. The auto land button on the Cirrus aircraft is pretty amazing. I wonder what the overall success rate of that will be. Are you talking about the parachute? The deployment of the parachute that Cirruses have? I'm not familiar with the auto land button of anything other than that. They have an auto land button now? What if there's no runway? I can't imagine being a heli pilot in a Vietnam War. Yeah, buddy. All right, ES and NASDAQ are both just kind of chilling. I haven't taken a single NASDAQ trade today. I've taken a gold trade, and that is it. And I'm perfectly fine with that because NASDAQ is terrible. Even this big sell-off here wasn't really prefaced by a volume spike. We had a very minor volume spike. We did have a couple of tweezers. We had the second and third C, but not the first C. How soon before AI will be flying planes? Very soon. So what's going to happen is that they're going to test automation on cargo aircraft, UPS, FedEx. They're the ones that are going to who's going to test out automation. And then if that goes successfully for a number of years, they'll start to put that into practice in commercial aircraft. I lost 3 friends to a Black Hawk crash in Afghan in 2014. Oh man, that's terrible. Yeah, I hate to hear that. What about a V-22? That is an insane aircraft. An Osprey? That thing is a abomination. It's an amazing aircraft. Do you think VIX is going to go skyrocket because of all the recent layoffs? Well, that's a deeper conversation. So, you're essentially saying, is the VIX going to rocket due to the fact that the economy is obviously beginning to cool? Well, the short answer would, yeah, eventually. But there's a lot to build into that. There's a lot of ingredients to that cake. Basically, we need to have confidence that the market is beginning to feel fear. Right now, this market has no fear. Look what happened. We had a spike to 29 on October 10th. What happened? Immediately, historical crush on the VIX, the fastest, most aggressive crush on the VIX in history, and that's even going back to April. And then what happened? We went from a very aggressive single red candle, and now here we are, 2 or 3% higher. So we need to have some confidence that the market is beginning to feel some fear and then thus position themselves for it, which will in turn spike the VIX and hold the VIX without completely deflating the volatility. The main trade that we're experiencing right now on the markets is vol crush. That's really the essence of why this market is grinding higher. They'll spike the VIX, the premiums will inflate, and they'll deflate them by selling calls and selling calls and selling puts on the S&P, selling calls on the VIX and selling calls on the S&P. Deflation, and then the market just goes into this positive gamma grind, aka a zombie market to the high side. And until that stops, we're going to continue to get these little grindy buy-ups that never stop. I mean, how many sessions in the past week have we had that just grind up and never top wick and never sell off? And that's because of that environment. Cirrus aircraft will use GPS and send an emergency signal to comm with ATC and navigate to the nearest airport. Pretty cool stuff. Well, they've had that technology now for a while, so I'm interested in that. The problem is, Fritz, is that Cirrus has already had a deployable parachute now for a number of years, where you pull the handle on the ceiling, it deploys a parachute, you glide back down nice and easy. The problem is, most aircraft that crash, 95% plus, are pilot-induced error. And once it gets to that point where you're about to die, it happens so quick that, one, Either your ego is too big to pull that parachute and you're going to try to land it, or two, you don't know what's happening until it's too late and you're dead. That's the problem. So I don't think that auto land feature is going to do very much, except for people who have like a pilot that is incapacitated. While we're doing nothing, can we actually talk this through? My position has been lasting pullback can't happen with this level of deficit spending. Do you disagree? And if so, why? My positioning has been lasting pullback can't happen with this level of deficit spending. Do you disagree and why? I don't disagree. Because the whole reason why this thing has been rocketing to new ridiculous levels, in my opinion, for two reasons. Well, let's call it three reasons. One, the deficit spending. Tremendous amount of easing and liquidity printing by the government. Number two, debt credit crisis. Utilizing debt, credit, and every metric of credit that you can possibly imagine to pump into the markets. And number three, of course, is the zero DTE setups. Relentless call buying, put selling. So, yeah, I mean, you can say that until that stops, this party is going to continue, because at this point, there is no indication that that is actually going to stop. There's no indication that this party is going to be over. We can kind of speculate and opine on when it could happen based on the given events that are coming up here in the next year. Midterms might do it. The fact that Trump will do everything in his power to keep this market going up. But right now, there's not really much to say that it's going to happen. So the only thing I can think of is I keep saying in my mind, because it's been, I've been battling closing out my long positions now since 2021 when it got silly in 2021. And here we are 4 years later and thousands of points higher. It's like, at what point is it actually time to take profit to protect ourselves? We don't know. I've tried to white knuckle this thing as long as I could, and I'm finally to the point here where there's so much that I'm like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap, that I have to do something to protect myself at some point. And that's why I've made this decision. Yes, could it continue to go up for another 3 months? Probably, if not longer. But I'm willing to take that risk. And the way I think about it, I can always rotate back in if I want to. No big deal. No big deal. I've already caught a phenomenal... The way I see it is that the growth I've experienced on all of my assets, not just the market, all of my assets from 2019 until now has exceeded every metric of expectation that I've had. If you were to tell me that the market would be trading at 6,900 and I'd be getting $60,000 an acre offers for my land, or triple the valuations of my real estate properties that I would 5 years ago, I would say you're crazy, you're insane. So the fact that we're already well beyond any kind of expectation that I've had is fine. So if I miss out on a little bit more, I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. The time to hedge is at the highs. I totally agree with you, but I can't see how it actually rolls over the government playing such a huge role. No, yeah, 100%. 100%. Am I long on gold? Not anymore. I was long on gold. Anyway, I have to shut the stream off. I'm going over to Bookmap Stream. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you'll get a notification when I pop up. There'll be literally in about 2 minutes, you'll see a stream pop up, another live stream. Click on that, and we're just switching over to Bookmap Stream. So give me a second. I'll post the links when they are active. Appreciate y'all being here. See you here in about a minute.